Hello there. John Malecki is one of the best channels for woodworking in YouTube, in my opinion. I've been watching his videos for a long time. I bought shop shades from him just to support the channel. But there was one build where he did the AI cave table, which he let AI to create a table and tried to create it in real life. At the end of the video, he said that it's one of the most difficult things he has ever built. So obviously I want to try it out. My skill level with carving is 0. I've never done anything with power carving. So obviously it makes perfect sense to start with something that John Malecki says is very difficult. So we'll see what happens with this. I'll be using a wood called, I think it's Bipolo, something like that. My wood supplier told that it's like poor man's walnut. It's pretty cheap and it kind of has somewhat similar look to walnut, even though not really, but he's a sales guy, I understand. It's quite soft, should be easier to carve, but let's see how this goes. Something has happened, so I don't know if I've ruined the project or not. Let me show what's happening here. Before showing all the issues I had with this table, let's start with the basics, which as usual is milling the lumber. This was one of those projects where basically every single phase was something I just needed to wing it and watch John Malecki's video, get the ideas and move on. But everything started after milling by cutting the lumber into smaller blocks and just starting to pile them up and see how it goes. After I was somewhat happy with the layout, I marked all the boards at the end so I know which piece goes to where, because I did probably 10 to 15 smaller piece glue ups before starting gluing everything together. As I mentioned in the beginning, I have never ever touched a power carving disc, so this was really the first time I ever touched the tool. And I knew there would be a lot of dust, so I went outside and tried to do most of the carving outside. But I spent around 2 months building this calendar time, because I only work in my workshop every other week, and even then only on evenings and weekends. So during that 2-month time, winter came, so later on this video you will just see how much dust is collected in my workshop when I do additional carving. After one out of surprisingly many carving sessions, I wanted to build the tabletop just to get further on the project. I will shortly explain my idea with this, again following how Malecki did it, but fairly simple until bad stuff happens. So here's the table, how it looks like now. I've done the initial shaping, I will still do a lot of power carving, not nearly complete with it. The table doesn't yet sit flat, as you can see, but that's not a problem because I haven't glued these pieces yet together. I need to clean up these so that I can make this flat when it's time for doing the glue up. And there will be a lot of sanding at some point when I'm done with the carving, but that's not my task for today. Today what I'm aiming to achieve is that I will put this tabletop on here, and then I will draw the opening that I want it to have, cut it out. Then I need to build the form for the epoxy, because I will do this in the same way than John Malecki did. That this will have the epoxy layer that you can see through, because I like the design. So I have no idea how long this will take to get this finished, but I do know that there's still a lot of things I need to do. So I don't even know, but I guess this will take at least 50 hours from start to finish, probably even more, so hopefully it will be good. With the tabletop sitting on my assembly table, I'm now drawing the line that I want to cut out that will be filled with epoxy later on. With some blades broken, I finally was able to do the first fitting, and before starting to build the mold, I needed to do a bit of carving, because after I've done the epoxy I will never ever get to this edge again. Instead of the traditional thing which I have always done with my epoxy builds, where you build a melamine box and make sure it doesn't leak, I decided to do it slightly differently, using tape as I always do at the bottom, and then I only seal the front edge, and that didn't really work out. Even with tape I always use mold release as well. I've had very good results with it, so no reason to change it. For the epoxy, I wanted to add just a bit of black color to get this small tint. It's still something you can see through. I didn't want it to be completely black, but I didn't want it to be completely clear either. On calculating how much epoxy you need, I always use the calculator from Blacktail Studios. I've had very good success with it. Actually 100% success rate, so I will keep doing that. So if you ever build something yourself and you want to figure out how to calculate the volume of epoxy you need, Google Blacktail Studios epoxy calculator and you will find it. So it's the next morning. I have the thing covered up so that it doesn't catch any dust or whatever because I'm working on other projects here. I did have a few leaks, nothing major, but I just couldn't film them because when the leaks start, it's messy. You need to be fast, your hands will be covered in caulk and epoxy. Couldn't really get my filming equipment up, so I patched them, all good with that. But something has happened, so I don't know if I've ruined the project or not. Let me show what's happening here. So for some reason, in basically one night, it has dried up. And I think it dried up way too quickly because you see it has shrunken a lot. There's gaps, there's voids. It's not looking as it should be. So this is a new one for me. I don't know why it did it. It is a deep cast epoxy. I've used that stuff before. Maybe it was too thick. Maybe I did something wrong. I don't know. So today I'll see if I can salvage it. So the worst case is I need to rebuild the whole thing. I really don't want to because I only do this part-time. I'm only here every other week on evenings and weekends. So if I need to rebuild it, I need to drive 2 hours to get more lumber. I need to build the tabletop. I need to do everything all over. So I'll try to save it. Never done it before. We'll see. To this date, I have no idea why that happened. Maybe I did something wrong, as I mentioned. Maybe I had the ratio wrong. The epoxy should be something that you can do deep casting with. I even rechecked the labels and everything, so no idea why, but here you see me trying to salvage it. So because it dried way too quickly and probably with way too much heat, the surface wasn't level, so I sanded everything back to level and then reapplied some epoxy so that it refills the stuff that had shrunken within one night. Luckily that was a success, so I didn't need to go through the hassle of rebuilding everything. Then it was time to see if I can still get it out from the mold. Because as I mentioned, I did have a leak, probably several of them. I needed to add a lot of caulk and everything, but in the end everything was fine. For flattening the table, I used to use router with the jig that you need to do it. Now I'm very happy that I have this wide planer, which is 80 centimeters, which is something between 31 to 32 inches. So I could just push my table through it enough times to make everything flat and level. There is one downside. Whenever you push something like this through, at least the machine I have, the epoxy just clogs up everything, so I needed to open it up and clean it up afterwards. All the parts are now done. My plan today is to do the final carving to get all the shape here that I want. I also plan to use the fine disc, which I've never used before because it's a very rough cut with the disc I've been using. So after I've done the rough carving, I will use the fine disc to hopefully ease the job of sanding this, which I'm really not waiting for. It is a bit chilly outside. It is Finland, end of November. I think it's -6 or something, which is whatever in Fahrenheit. I'll put it somewhere on the screen. So I think I have to use gloves. I really don't want to, but in these weathers, just something that has to be done. So I just need to be careful. But anyway, plan is to do the final carving today. And maybe, if I manage to do it, get this thing glued up so that I can continue with the final things with this build. So again, we'll see how it goes. Oh, there was still many carving sessions to be done, but at this stage, again, the first time I'm building anything like this, so I had no idea. Few issues. The biggest one was that as it's so cold, the face mask I was using just gets completely foggy and I didn't see anything. So the weather kind of won me. I had to do the carving inside afterwards. The other reason is that the cordless Makita grinder that I was using couldn't handle the load. It broke down. And the only grinder I have, in addition to that one, is a corded one. And as it was raining, I couldn't really take it outside. So carving inside it was, and the amount of dust it creates is just amazing. But some issues are always expected along the way, especially when you're building something you have never done before. But things were progressing. But before I can start gluing these pieces together, I needed to sand the table from inside first, because after I glue the pieces together it would become much harder. And the amount of time overall I spent sanding, I don't even know, but it's massive. It took probably more than 10 hours easily, just sanding everything with all the tools I have. So I will spare you from the footage, but I'll just tell you, it took a lot of time. The nice part here was that after everything had dried up, it was super easy to make the glue lines disappear by just using the carvers that I have. Talking about dust when carving inside, it gets absolutely everywhere. And the amount of times I needed to use my leaf blower to get rid of the dust was a lot. I don't know. I had to do it maybe 10 times, and even today there's still a lot of dust just everywhere in my shop. So if I ever do anything around power carving again on this scale, I will wait for a season in Finland when I can do it outside. Doing it inside a shop just doesn't really work for me. But at least I got a nice sneak preview how I will look like when I start getting old or grey or whatever. Moving on. Before I can glue the tabletop, I needed to sand it from below, because again, after it has been glued up to the table, I will never get to these surfaces again. And as always with epoxy, there's always small holes you need to fill up. Even though this will be on the bottom side, probably no one will ever see it, I still decided to patch the biggest ones that I had. And back to sanding, which I did mention took much more time than I thought in the beginning. I knew it would be a lot, but I was still surprised how long it took. I sanded everything up to 180 grit, and before the final grit I did the water popping. I won't have that much footage of the sanding because I mean no one wants to see me sanding for 15 hours, but there's few clips around where you can see how I did it. Then it was time to glue the tabletop on, and as everything has been sanded from the inside, I wanted to be very careful with the glue so that it doesn't spill to the wrong side, so I didn't add glue all the way to the end on the inside, which surprisingly actually worked. I didn't have any issues with this one, so sometimes I'm lucky. There was a bit of a gap in one of the corners because I've been carving too much here and there. Not a big issue. I just cut out a thin slice of the same wood, glued it there, and then like before made all the seams disappear with my carving, so easy fix. Now, I'm not happy that all the snow melted away because I actually prefer to have a proper winter. It's coming at some point. But the positive thing is that I was able to do the next carving outside again, because as you saw before, the amount of dust this creates is amazing, and I'm also carving the epoxy part here, which I really didn't want to end up in my lungs and my shop. Time for some more sanding, yay! But after endless amount of hours spent on sanding everything, it was finally time to apply the finish. John Malecki did a spray finish, which probably would have been better here, but I don't have a spray booth, and as I mentioned, my shop is still full of dust and everything. I just couldn't really do it, so I did what I always do, used Rubio monocoat. It took a lot of time to get the Rubio to every single nook and cranny that I have on this table, but this is the end of the video. You will see me applying the finish, wipe it off, and then some beauty shots of the finished product. So I am super happy how this turned out, and I will probably never ever build anything like this again.